so far for everyone? You've been having a good Saturday?
Yes.
Are you super tired?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so in case you weren't aware by the glaringly obvious title screen, this is A Brief History of BL. I'm Meredith. And this is Luke up here. Luke's my Vanna. Luke's doing the slides for me. Okay, we're gonna get started. Before I really, dive into the content, something that I just wanted to address was, I study history. I consider myself a historian. And of course, along with that, just having graduated from college, you learn that when you do research, you have biases as a researcher. Two of those biases being, I am neither a Japanese woman nor a Japanese gay man. But I still try to present the factual part of this as accurately and as well done as possible. So with that in mind, let's get started. We're going to start with some classifications. I don't know if it's anybody else, but has anybody ever had this situation where you're talking to your friend or an acquaintance or whatever, and they say something about yaoi, and it's really loud and you kind of cringe a little bit because you don't want other people to be like, oh, that's weird. So we're going to jump into the classifications because BL and yaoi are two very different things, and people often use the terms interchangeably, even though that's actually not correct. So BL, obviously, is an abbreviation for boys love. Y'all probably, already knew that. And BL is a Japanese genre of fictional media focusing on the romantic or sexual relationships between two male characters. And BL is mostly created by females for a female audience. And BL includes any canonical, non-fan created male work, such as manga, light novels, which are easily dispensable fiction. There's tons of them in Japan, and anime. And this differs from yaoi, which is a slang term coined in the 1970s, and it means yaminashi, ochinashi, iminashi, or no climax, no fall, no meaning, which refers to both, the climax of a story, or the climax is in y'all already know, and yaoi has fallen out of fashion as a term because it originally means non-canon, mostly fan-made works like doujinshi, non-commercial stuff that isn't made by anyone official except artists and writers. And it does not include canon BL manga. And since doujinshi now covers a wide variety of genres, where in the beginning it just sort of focused on highly sexualized PWP, porn without plot parodies. Try saying that many P's in a row. Most artists just use the term doujinshi rather than going and saying yaoi doujinshi. So again, doujinshi, self-published, non-commercial, sold in the small shops. We have fujoshi, which is a reclaimed term for a female BL fan, and it literally means rotten woman. We have fundanshi, a reclaimed term for a male BL fan, which literally means rotten boy. We have uke, neko, catcher, etc., which are these submissive roles and works. You already know, the bottoms. We have seme, tachi, pitcher, etc., the dominant roles, obviously. We got the tops. What's a top without a bottom? We got shonen, so y'all know manga aimed at a teenage male target demographic, and shoujo, which is manga aimed at a teenage female demographic, and we'll get into why we need those last two terms in a minute. So, is fujoshi a bad word? I hear a lot that people are afraid to use the term fujoshi, or they just think it's bad because they're usually quick to jump to the assumption that it means a woman that fetishizes gay men. And I think that's a really simplistic way to go when especially we as an English speaking audience don't really know Japanese slang word for word. And fujoshi as a word has a long history. We're TERFs, so people who exclude trans women from women's spaces on the internet and in fandoms and stuff are really negative about the term fujoshi because they use it to claim that trans men or trans masculine people are actually just straight women who are fetishizing gay men instead of trans men who are straight or are gay and just enjoy BL. So we have BL in early history. Y'all, I bet you didn't know BL had early history. So going back to, when women started being like, those two dudes are really handsome, what if they kissed? We go back to the Edo period. And the Edo period saw the first conscious literary tradition where women started, writing stories and writing poems, talking about the charm of male beauty and stories about older and younger samurai and kabuki actors and all this good, homoerotic stories that, people in Edo were just eating up, And later, in the Taisho period, around the Edwardian era, Japan saw this significant economic and technological growth, and that includes the publication of magazines and serials for the first time. And so men would write shoujo for girls, and it would often be sort of these little stories with a mascot character that would be in a magazine, and she would be like, "These are my top 5 tips for cleaning your house, wives," or something like that. And naturally, girls got sort of bored with that really quickly. And men were making stories during this era that projected an air of homoeroticism. And these stories were about outdoor adventures and nights and really cool things. And so girls were like, "I'm ditching all that cleaning bullshit. I want to read about the men who are hanging out together." And these stories were usually accessible to girls through books and magazines that they borrowed from the male members of their families. And what the academia that I read behind this, a couple books that I've looked at, in an era of, generally socially enforced chasteness, focusing on the forbidden sexual relationships between male bodies allowed women a safe outlet to explore sexual themes. And BL, in turn, it sort of allows agency for these women, for these early women, because they're allowed for the first time, instead of sort of being embarrassed, they get to focus on these sort of stereotypical, male, sexual pornographic stereotypes, and they get to read about people having rough sex and humiliation, and they get to think about it for the first time, and that's a really interesting concept. And over here I have an illustration from one of these early magazines. These men look, they're brothers in arms, and girls are like, what if they were more than brothers in arms? I'm jumping in, sorry. The phallic imagery here is incredible. Yeah, sometimes you just want to let, one man wants to handle another man's weapon. So we go on, we continue with our history. Can you tell I like history? A little bit. So as we move on, in the pre-70s, shoujo artists, as I said before, were typically men. But then BL has its origins not only in these early magazines, but in shoujo manga created in the 70s. These plots continued from early on, where they would focus on platonic or heavily implied relationships between two beautiful boys. And these aesthetic stories are responsible for coining the term shonai, or boys love, meaning younger boys, because these stories didn't really focus on men yet as we think of BL today. The most notable of these shoujo artists was a group of female authors known as the Year 24 group, and their works are considered classics because they're the first women that sort of take this shoujo and they're like, what if I focused it around sexuality or gender issues? And they are called the Fabulous Year 24 group, and it refers to when a majority of these authors were born in Showa 24 or 1949. And these women came of age during the sexual revolutions of the 1970s. So they had a really big hand in sort of shaping this early sexual fandom culture for girls. And the 1980s continued in an upswing, and more BLs becoming more easily acceptable with highly sexualized parody doujinshi of shonen animes, because a majority of 1980s animes were for boys instead of girls. And so these doujinshi were made about two best friends or partners, except they would, recast them as gay lovers, like Mobile Suit Gundam, which, congratulations, This insinuates that if you've ever watched a show about a giant robot swinging around a sword, it's phallic imagery and you're gay. We got an example up here, not of an early one because, you know, not a lot of 1980s stuff on the internet, but this is a show that came out in 2011, Tiger and Bunny, and I thought it'd be a good example even though it's modern because these two are superhero partners. And there is a lot of doujinshi about them. Literally go 2 floors down and you'll know what I'm talking about. All right, we have our first trivia if anyone feels inspired to answer a question. This work was serialized in 1976 after a 9-year ongoing fight between the author and her publishers. Because she refused to censor the heavy elements of her work, she was heavily inspired by French aesthetics, and our choices for what is considered the first true BL manga are A, A Lonely Man's Struggle, B, The Poem of Wind and Trees, C, Fake, or D, You're My Love Prize and Viewfinder. And if anyone wants to raise their hand, you can win some candy. Hey, you know?
No, I'm gonna guess C, Fake, because it seemed like it would fit.
It's not fake, no. Let's get you with the grapes. Poem of the Wind and Trees. She is correct. It is the Poem of the Wind and Trees. I'll get your candy in a minute. So this manga, The Poem of the Wind and Trees, is considered the first BL manga, and it's heavily inspired by French aesthetics. It looks a lot like, you know, early shoujo manga, and you can tell how that inspired this. And it's about Sergei, who's the son of a French viscount and a Roma woman, and he becomes the roommate of Gilbert, who is the son of French nobility, and he has this really awful, terrible backstory, and it focuses on lighter themes of adolescence while combining it with darker themes of homophobia, familial sexual assault, and drug abuse. And you can see now why the author had to fight so hard to get it published. While it's considered dark and depressing by a lot of BL standards, the art style is feminine and whimsical and reflects the author's shoujo background. Does anybody, looking at the picture, does it remind you of anything?
Welcome, let's fill in all seats possible, starting at the wall. Fill.
Yeah, it's just like the Rose of Versailles.
Yeah. Which also inspires me.
So, we have tropes now. We're going to go into some tropes. And before I talk about the tropes that I have on my list, why don't I get some volunteers to talk about tropes that you recognize from BL manga? What are tropes that y'all see a lot or that you like? Tropes that you dislike?
The gangster guys. They're like, I don't like you, but I like you.
We love some good, you know, some Yakuza manga. What about anybody else? Come on.
Denial. I'm not gay.
Denial is not just a river in Egypt.
I personally love the high school ones where it's like the bad boy turns good guy because of the nerdy boy.
Oh, yeah.
Like those are my favorites.
That's soft. Are you Klaus, by the way?
Yes.
You rock.
Meredith.
Oh yeah, let's get you.
Well, it's mostly an American fan fiction, but Omega Verse. You can't really get away from that.
Yeah, you're right.
We got some potential AVO fans in the room. Can I see a show of hands? Let's go. All right, tropes, tropes, tropes.
Well, I remember a while back, the very first book that my girlfriend read was a Gallery, and it was BL, and it was really cute. It was a yellow Lucy petal that had rivals, you know, getting it on. But one thing that was really hot about it was how they were like so in character, and I loved that because you know it felt like Nito Sushi was Nito Sushi, and I just love that. Yeah, I like it with rivals.
Rivals, okay.
Dominant and submissive, always.
You like what you like.
Yeah, can I just say that, like, can we as a fandom, like, get away from the non-con stuff, please?
Yeah,
For real.
I agree.
The back. Yeah, he kind of said it with the dom and sub. I just love it.
Oh,
when
like-
one person is super aggressive, like
rape or
the
like,
other is just so
or like,
innocent. I can't.
like W is consent.
Fun, that's fun. Okay. All right, gonna do one more.
I know, right?
There's like, and then there's like DubCon,
What
which
is that?
is
Doesn't matter
dubious
how
consent, which is like
edgy they
you're
are.
like coerced into it, like someone's already forcing you, and you finally just kind of give up.
We
Like,
like
okay,
a
fine.
sense of,
So,
we like a sense of realism in our shows, in our reading.
happens anyway.
See my list of tropes.
But there was no like actual like agreement.
So I got a lot of, some stuff that you guys said and some stuff that you didn't say. We have, classmates who love, everybody, loves some slice of life. We have just friends helping each other out. Crazy jealousy, age gap romances. If it's you, it's okay. Coworkers turn lovers. Unfortunately, dubious consent and love triangles. Tired, it's played out. I'm tired of, men being like, he looked at my man, he obviously wants to steal him away from me, blah, blah, blah. The guy who has to mention, like, how straight he is today, like, and then shout out to the person who was, like, talking about Yakuza.
And of course, love stage is perfect.
Yeah, love stage is perfect. So, like, most of you know love stage, but that dude up there, Ryuma, had, like, a crush on a girl that he met as a child for 10 years, and then the girl turned out to be this dude, and so the brother's like, no, hey, that's not a girl, that's my little brother. Crushing 10 years of his dreams.
In one fell swoop.
In one fell swoop, yes. So I went and I was looking at this survey by the University of Leeds, and this researcher, this professor, she had a survey where she was trying to collect information about the types of people who read BL, and she had a list that you could select from, naming like the types of tops and bottoms that you particularly like in your literature, and I just thought this was so interesting, how there's like specific phrasing for it, and I saw reflected in this a lot of the stuff that I see reflected in the reading that we do. And so, I'm sure some of you have seen these, like there's a king, some dude who's generally from a good family, and he's got high social status, and he's got all the money and good looks, and he's super straight-laced. Or the loyal dog, who's like the devoted guy, and he's, fawning over this, shorter man like a puppy, and he's just like pursuing him until he gets him despite constant rejection and constant failure. And then the same thing here. Yeah. I'm sure that we've all read a number of BL manga that's got the tsundere in it, where the guy's just like, leave me alone,
Yeah.
But yeah. Unfortunate. Okay, trivia number 2. As of December 2017, this manga has been compiled into 22 volumes, with the first novel being released in 2003. Known for its sometimes campy couples, horrendous hands, and the utilization of the everyone is gay plot device, this manga was the first BL to enter the New York Times bestseller list. Let's get those hands, let's go! Hey, how about you? Yeah, we got Junjo.
Yeah.
Oh my god! And I thought it was very important to note the style transition between the early 2000s and like a year ago.
Look how good the hands got.
Those chins. Yikes.
I feel like her hands are better than the first one. What the fuck?
I actually kind of like the first part.
You win some, you lose some. You lose some bad hands, you get some snake eyes. Equivalent exchange.
Yeah, the second one, the movie just kind of, like, I gotta bite your face.
Nice catch.
Alright, so next
Oh my God.
about not much of the
Luke's over here
difference between
like
them. So, Bara manga, and I have this example up here, Priapus. Bara manga is different from BL manga in that it's by gay men for gay men. And so the style is a lot different than something over here, Soft Macho, which is BL. The example I use is Pretty Men Fighting Dirty by this female author, Sakura. And the two differences, so Bara manga, you're gonna see, it's gonna be a lot more hardcore than what you see in just regular BL manga. The men are gonna look a lot more like stereotypical bodybuilders. They're gonna have huge muscles, they're gonna have man titties, they're gonna have hair. And that's gonna be a lot different from the men over here who are still sort of pretty, shiny, they have the longer hair, the big eyes, your typical BL type things. And so I have an example over here of Pretty Men Fighting Dirty, and you can see where the man, you know, he's still got the sort of like pretty facial expressions, and it's a lot different from Bara manga, which like Priapus. I'm gonna tell y'all about Priapus, and you're not gonna enjoy it. So Priapus essentially goes like, there's this god, Priapus, and Zeus comes to him, king of the gods, and he's like, hey, I'm really mad at humanity because they're just like terrible, so I want you to get rid of all of them. So Priapus is like, okay, perfect plan. I'm gonna make sure that the human race dies out. They're not gonna be able to procreate anymore because I'm gonna turn every single straight man on earth gay. And we got our example up here. So each part of this manga is literally a one-shot of him like getting with a man and then dumping him and leaving him like forever distraught, like, oh, I'm never gonna be with anybody that's as hot as that guy up there. See, also Bara manga tends to like amp up the shine. Like if you look on the covers, the skin is always like really shiny and like.
Do you see the best?
Yeah, that's on the cover. Oh. They just sell it like that. They want you to know what you're getting into. Shows up at this like Yakuza dude's house, and this dude's like, you know, typical like, I'm not gay, and like, he just shows up, and that's a water balloon filled with cum, and like I really don't know what to say besides that. It's the most ridiculous image I've ever seen, and I just felt the need to include it so that you knew how hardcore these things truly get. I mean, you see a dick, you see this water balloon essentially, like I don't know what else to tell you. They want you to know what you're getting into right away with this like buff, vaguely scary looking but still handsome man. Okay. Yes! Who here in our room reads manhwa? Let's go. Anybody want to share with me some of their favorites before I jump in? Let's get you right here.
Love is an Illusion.
Yes. Yes, thank you. I'm very pleased. What about you, right here? Let die. Die. Not you. I'll move the hand there. See you again. See you again. Not you. A guy like you. Fans in here. All right. So, manhwa has been like kind of low-key an obsession for me lately. The style's a little bit different than BL manga. The men sort of, you know, not exactly taking after Bara, but a lot of the men in BL manhwa are a lot stronger, and they sort of still conform to some of these tropes, but not so like die hard about it as BL manga, which is like led me to switching my alliances a little bit from Japanese author to Korean authors. And so manhwa is the term for, the general term for Korean comics and print cartoons, and it primarily refers to South Korean comics, although sometimes the term is used for China and Taiwan and other places besides Japan. It's easily accessible through apps like Webtoons and online payable sites such as Lesin and Ktoon. These online mediums have now reached the equal amount of those published offline. There's literally that much manhwa in the world now that it rivals print BL manga. And this art style is often characterized by large white gaps and prominent header titles. And the example that I have up here is Make Me Bark. I had to. He's just so beautiful. And so we got the summary. Sungjoon's not doing so great, but life is looking up. His job at the convenience store pays enough for him to afford his own place, a tiny, smelly, and laughably cheap place. But he loves it. He loves it right up until he walks home and finds it on fire. Unfortunately, things get worse when he realizes he doesn't know anyone in the city who can help. But wait, no, that's not right. Actually, he does know Lee Hyo-in, a kid from his university, who is coincidentally looking for a roommate. Well, not a roommate, more of a dog. And so the plot sounds just like it says. This guy is poor, he needs a place to stay. This kid from his university is like, hey, your really cute, innocent face reminds me of my childhood dog who I miss terribly, who died. You know, I'll let you stay here if I can jack you off a couple of times. And there we go. And this is on Lesin, which is honestly the coolest app because it literally takes it immediately after it gets published in Korea and translates it officially into English, and you can go on the website and get it. But unfortunately, you gotta pay to play. So we have him over here, and a lot of manhwa also feature side couples, 2 or 3 side couples. And this is a guy that Lee Hyo-in runs into in a sex store, that guy there on the bottom. And they fight over a sex toy because both of them want to go home and use it on their boyfriends. Isn't that a healthy form of competition? And then we got this one. Someone in the audience said so. We have Love is an Illusion. And this one fits a certain specific genre, but Hae-sung has spent his entire life believing that he is an alpha, the jackpot of the genetic lottery. But his world is flipped upside down when he finds out that he isn't an alpha, but a lowly omega. Aww. This revelation is pushed to its limits when he consistently and constantly crosses paths with Dojin, an alpha who can't stand omegas. Take a step into the Omegaverse and find out what it takes to make their pulses race and bodies go wild. This is an official summary. Did I feel embarrassed to put it on there? A little bit. Did I do it anyway? Yes. Can y'all tell who's the alpha, who's the omega in this if you hadn't have read the summary? How can you tell? Usually by size.
Hair color.
Hair color? That was interesting.
For some reason.
He's right.
Look at that tiny.
Yeah, the guy with the blush is always the one on the bottom. So, yeah. So they start hanging out, and naturally, what happens when you start, in a world where men can get pregnant, when 2 men start hanging out, only the inevitable can happen.
Yeah, no.
In a world where BL manga and BL manhwa does not talk about sex ed that much, just like in real life. So, he gets pregnant, very obvious, and they have the cutest baby, and his name is Star or whatever. Yeah, we got BJ Alex. Anybody in here read that? Can I get a, yeah, a couple of you, and a couple of you who have not yet read it, you're gonna learn. Every night at 10, Gun locks himself in his room, grabs a box of tissues, and watches a live cam boy hosted by Alex, a BJ, broadcast jockey. But you know, if you read this title, you would not think it stands for that. This timid man not only admires Alex's ripped body, but his candor in sharing his sexual experiences with viewers. One night after downing too many drinks at a school networking event and passing out, he wakes up. He's in bed staring at a shirtless man, a man who looks an awful lot like ... Alex. Wow, never would have seen that coming, that, you know, the dude who looks an awful lot like Alex is Alex. And so, this dude, Alex, they start hanging out, and he sees like these cute faces that this dude over here on the bottom can make, just casually, like just not even anything perverted, just like sees how cute this guy is. And then when he goes to do one of his live cam shows next time, he's like, why can't I get it up? I'm thinking about all the usual stuff I think about, why can I not get it up? And he's horrified to learn that this like loser from his class or whatever is now the object of his affection. And so, here we go. Yeah. Oh my gosh, can you believe the guys with the similar haircuts turn out to be the same person? Yeah, really? Oh my gosh, give this Sherlock an award. Alright, we got our trivia number 5. Well, it was number 5 at one point, but upon its debut, this Korean manhwa was met in part with both acclaim and condemnation. While fans praised the story's intricate handle of darker themes, displaying content such as psychological manipulation, physical abuse, and kidnapping, opponents denounced it for allegedly romanticizing Stockholm Syndrome. A grand prize winner of the Lesbian Comic Award named this manhwa that is listed under both the BL and the horror categories.
Screaming together now.
Is it Killing Stalking? It is Killing Stalking! Y'all are so smart. You ever just like want to read a story about two men that like fall in love low-key, but you know, it's not really love because it actually is Stockholm Syndrome? But like, you know, sometimes you want to see one man break another one's kneecaps and then make out. That's about it. You already know. This thing is messed up. It recently finished after, you know, years of people either loving it or hating it. And I can't tell y'all the ending, but yikes. Yikes. We got a bonus one. This webtoon was published by Lesbian Comics in 2016 and was quickly and illegally re-uploaded onto manga reader websites. Periodically ranked as one of the top BL on the site, this manhwa features a storyline about a BDSM-loving vampire living in a futuristic dystopia.
Meredith. No, I know. And I didn't know.
Let's go. Who haven't I picked? Let's get you. Blood Bank? It is Blood Bank. This one's got a lot of, you know, stuff that's intermingled into it. It's got psychological horror. It's got futuristic elements where all humans are slaves to now vampires. It's got weird ABO pheromones, low-key. Whatever, you know, this dude is working at the blood bank, just trying to enjoy his life essentially as living cattle for our future vampire overlords. And then this dude comes along, this vampire lord, who's like, I've always really wanted somebody to step on me. And so it goes on and on. Yeah, let's talk about this. So there's an interesting discussion where people are like, can something made in the US be considered BL because it's neither Japanese nor Korean? Well, some authors have taken it upon themselves to say, hey, my work is BL because it's not about, it's not a realistic, you know, depiction of gay life, but it's just about like two men being in love with each other and doesn't focus really on a ton of like other plot devices other than these two men being in love. And I included this example because I feel like not a lot of people know like a ton of webcomics, and this is a good one. We got ABLA by Lucid, and Gannett used to be perfectly normal. Sure, he was stuck in a homophobic hellhole in the middle of nowhere, but he was normal. And then he woke up one morning to find a freakish set of wings sprouting from his back, with no one else but his wannabe ornithologist neighbor Bailey to confide in. Convenient. Gannett now must go through the painful and bloody process of growing wings. It is a webcomic about a gross bird boy and his bird-obsessed boyfriend, I mean neighbor, who helps him out during the painful and bloody process of growing wings. So we got two, I gotta have the panels up here, you know, you just... There's a lot of trouble, you know, like having sex with somebody when they have a full, like, giant pair of bird wings on their back as it happens. And I like it because it not only has like this great art style, and the author is also an unapologetic creator. Like, she makes doujinshi of her own work that you can buy, which I think is really interesting because she just wants to make a bunch of AUs about what if this Birdman was like a succubus, or what if this Birdman was like Cupid, or a werewolf, or you know, all that good stuff, because all you guys are monster fuckers. Don't lie. And that's Bailey, and he's demisexual and very cute. She's like, I unapologetically love mayonnaise, so that's why Bailey is my favorite. We also got Starfighter! We got Starfighter fans in the room! Yes, thank you! So, Starfighter was made in 2009, and it's still ongoing. The slowest updating webcomic ever, but still pretty good payoff. And set in an undetermined date in the future, station houses in space hosts the Starfighter fleet, which are manned by a fighter and navigator team, fighting Colterons, an alien race bent on destroying the human race. Navigator Abel is assigned to notorious fighter Kane, who kicks off their partnership by scarring Abel's lip and declaring him to be his. Forced together by circumstances, Abel does his best to be both partner and navigator to loose cannon Kane, entering into a brutal, messy relationship, even as hints arise that Kane may be more than he seems and is very dangerous. So, Starfighter is fun. If y'all like sci-fi, if y'all like gay shit, read Starfighter. The author also unapologetically refers to her own comic as BL, and she's really cool. She's done Japanese conventions. A lot of people from Japanese and Korean Twitter interact with her online because they too consider it BL and have sort of welcomed her in a way into the international family of boys loving boys. And yeah, here we go. We gotta have some imagery up in there. So obviously they get code names. Cain and Abel aren't their real names because that would be pretty weird. She named them after two brothers in the Bible who, like, one kills the other. Not the exactly, you know, good start off for romance. But, yeah. So they're together and each one of them has to pilot a ship. And at least one of these ships can only be piloted by the use of emotion. So it's very important that they maintain a good working relationship. Working relationship. Working, not working relationship. You like Starfighter?
It's basically like the spring boy who basically just gets his shit cracked. I'm sorry. Like, I know that's what people
Valid. Because Abel is the type where he's very, like, you know, kind of stuck up and like, oh, my father's a big politician back on Earth and blah, blah, blah. And Cain's just like some friggin' jailbird who, like, they set loose on the public. Starfighter's has been going so long and has amassed such a following and has made so much money that the author was like, I want to make a visual novel for it. And in the visual novel, you play as a new fighter and navigator team, Celine and Helios. And you can also date the other characters from the comic, which I thought was like a really like cool original use of these characters. Oh, the visual novel is called Starfighter Eclipse. And you have to solve a alien murder mystery while also, you know, battling off your many potential boyfriends. Yeah. Here we go. And that's all that I got.
So like, where are some general places you can read BL?
I'm not gonna tell y'all like mostly illegally because that would be very wrong of me as someone who wants to support creators, but you can buy Dojinshi online, you can buy books online, you can go to Barnes & Noble, any online forum, Leshin, K-Tune, Manga Rock, My Reading Manga, all that. You used to be able, there were subsections of Kiss Anime you could read manga on before that website literally illegally started mining people's computer for Bitcoin. Oh yeah, let's get you down here.
A really good app to read manga on legally, where you can actually buy it and directly contribute to the artist, is Manga Renta. And it actually has like the artist's social media sometimes. You can directly follow them on Twitter. You always want to try to pay the artists, you guys. Like, let's not try to pirate things because artists are people. Yeah, Manga Renta. Fun stuff.
Again, that's another reason I really started to like manhwa because like it's so much more like easily accessible legally.
Where is some good BL like animation, like anime? Is there?
Ooh, I have a couple. Does anybody want to help this man out? Any BL anime that you enjoy?
Just wait for 2019 to end.
Yeah, number 6 is really good. It's like barely BL, but it's canon, so like, shit. I don't know, number 6 is just really good because it's got, I don't know, relatable characters. It's set in a post-apocalyptic type deal. There's like this bee goddess that wants to like destroy the human race or something, but like, I don't know. It's really good. I don't know how to explain it. It's just really good. Check it out.
Yeah, when you're watching number 6, you're focusing less on the, you know, evil goddess type thing who wants to destroy the world and more so on these 2 men slow dancing. Aww. It's about this boy named Shion, and he meets this boy when he's about 10, 13 years old named Nezumi, and Nezumi's like from outside of the city number 6, which appears to be a utopia, but of course is not. It is a dystopia. And they end up running away together in the future. What about you? Gravitation. Oh my gosh, Gravitation. Were any of y'all even born when Gravitation came out? Does anybody here know Gravitation? Oh wow, a lot of you! I'm impressed. Luke, I know you're dying to say something. So, yeah. Oh yeah, what about you? Twittering birds never fly. Gotta run out and run back in. Okay, Twittering birds gotta run out. It's Japanese. Watching a large excess of people.
Hey, if you're leaving, can you please be a little bit quieter? The panel is still going on. Thank you.
Sorry, we're trying to get in line for the one after this.
That's fine.
But you can do it quietly.
Yeah, let's give it. Yeah.
No. Alright, I believe it's on Twitch, but if you're into like boy love dating sims, they have a lot of ones that are character created where they even have voice acting. I think one I saw recently was Seducing a Succubus and such like that. There are a bunch of them on Twitch, seriously.
I'm gonna tell y'all about Gravitation really quick because that is the hill that I chose to die on, is this like terrible early 2000s BL. So this one dude is a rock star and he's having trouble finding inspiration for writing a song, and so he's walking through the park one night jotting down lyrics, and his lyric sheet flies away into the hands of this guy who's an author who reads it and promptly tells him, "This is shit." And the guy immediately is filled with inspiration by this for some reason. The next day, he's walking and he sees the guy who had the nerve to critique his work, jumps out in front of his car, to which the guy replies, "If you're gonna kill yourself, don't do it on my damn car." And from there, it sparks a loving romance based on music and spoken word. What about you? Anybody else? Let's get you.
My girlfriend got me into a donghua called Mo Daozushi, also known as the Grandmaster of Cultivation. It's actually got an anime. The second season's coming out this July. It's basically about this. It takes place back in like early China when they really believed in cultivation and being able to live forever, like get to a point with meditation and all that. And this one guy kind of goes down a dark path, and then they have to kill him. And the guy that loved him is kind of like all sad about it, and like trying to get reconnected with him. And then somehow he's able to come back to life through the suicide of this one other guy. It's like very complicated, but it's just like now the dogma is starting to get crazy.
Are they actually together or not? Is that like a real thing, or is that just...
Yeah,
Seriously hinted. That's good enough for me. It's good enough for a lot of us. Yeah, what about you? Hey.
This boy, blank. So it's like a series of short movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like this.
This Boy Caught a Merman.
Yeah.
We all see that. That's a really cute movie.
And like this boy.
This boy fights magicians. I think there's one. This boy fights aliens, and then there's one about a magician. I apologize.
And crystallization.
And crystallization. And those are cute. They've got a cool style.
So yeah, we got some good recommendations. Obviously, I can recommend Love Stage again, which had the panel up there. I'm just curious. This is something I want to know. How many of you watched like Junjo back in the day? How many of you watched Sekaiichi back in the day? How many of you are still watching BL anime right now, as I'm told by the fact that your butt is currently in this seat?
What? You got something to say? Watch it.
Takaichi, I'm being harassed by the sexiest man of the year.
Yes.
Oh, that's a new. That's the whole title. Yes, that's the new one. Takaichi is probably how you can find it.
The guy that's at the top of that kind of looks like Makoto from Free, I noticed.
As a hardcore Free fan, that's not a problem for me.
Down here.
So, there's a manga, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's really short and cute. It's called 19 Days. Yeah, I love it. And there is also, if you haven't heard of them, they're like stars, they're called the Yaoi Army. And they have a manga that's called a Fujoshi turns into like a perfect semi-body, and it's really good. They have like 3 volumes, and they're making like different, they're making new volumes of new chapters of like different manga, but it's really good.
Fake?
Yeah, Fake's really good. Yeah, it's copy of partner.
Going off of what she said about fangirls being trapped in perfect bodies, another one that I would recommend to you guys is Boys Please Kiss Him Instead of Me. Yeah, you guys, a couple of you know that one. And it's, about this girl, and she's like this hardcore fujoshi, and she's shipping her classmates, and one day she goes home to watch her favorite anime, and her favorite character dies, and so she decides the logical way to deal with this problem is to lock herself in a room for 3 weeks, and because it's anime, and reality, rules of reality, she comes out 3 weeks later having not eaten at all in that time and is super skinny and super pretty, and suddenly every boy that she used to ship together is in love with her and now wants to date her.
There's one, like a newer one, I think it's just finished up, Torajima My Hero. It's, okay, so you guys know it, but I don't have to explain the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay, but I will anyway. There are
I
people.
was curious. No, that sounds awesome. I was just being told about that like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, it is a really good one. If you want like the whole kind of like slice of life, real life problem, it's about this kid who was going through these issues. His mom, let's put it politely, is a lady of the night. Let's put it politely. Yes, I saw that face. Yes, definite. One night she brings one of her clients home. Her son freaks out, goes to the park, meets another kid. They start to they take it to the kid's house, and the kid's older brother actually goes around beating up all the delinquents in the neighborhood. He's like known as like the bear killer, and bear killer, pretty much this bear killer and the kid whose mom's as you so eloquently put it, a whore. Basically, those two end up, in the long run, hooking out together. But the kid's in a gang, so they gotta go through all that, getting them out of that, getting them to school and all that. It's basically kind of like dealing with life situations, only BL style.
Yeah. The manga is really good. It's really cute. It's really cute, except for when the main guy, you know, hasn't thought at all about dating this older brother. And the older brother looks at him and he says, essentially, why are you so obsessed with me? It's never gonna happen. And then as soon as this guy's like, all right, it's never gonna happen, the brother's like, no, wait, I was joking. The ridiculousness.
So I'm not sure how well this applies, but on a webtoon there's one called Castle Swimmer, which is this kid that is this mer person who is the center of every prophecy ever. Is going around and they get to the shark castle, which is cursed to have everyone kind of injured, and the prince has to kill the prophecy kid, and instead they fall in love.
I love that. I love when characters are like self-aware of the fact that they're the protagonist. Like, everybody in my class has black hair and I have bright pink bubblegum hair. I wonder what that could mean. Another man one that I probably should have mentioned for you guys is I'm Yours, Blood and Soul, which is literally about a succubus and a vampire hooking up. It's pretty good. Yeah, ooh, let's get you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was aware of Basilord.
Oh, I've been trying to find
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, my college friend introduced it to me like forever ago, and I think there's like an OVA of it or something, but they seriously need to make it into a full-blown anime. So Basilord is basically, oh god, I think his name is Christopher or something. I'm sorry. And their names escape me. I'm very sorry. I'm the worst at explaining things with a microphone. I'm good?
Yeah, you're good.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Vampires.
Yeah, vampires.
Sorry.
That's all we need to know, vampires.
Yeah.
We're right at 10:30 also.
Yeah.
All right, let's get you, last one.
It's not really BL, but I don't know if you guys have heard of Banana Fish.
Oh, yeah.
Who else is crying over that?
So it's like a pretty old manga, but they recently adapted it too. It's really good, you guys should check it out, but it covers some pretty dark stuff, so just check that out first to make sure.
So apparently the author forever ago when that was written, she apparently was going through some hard stuff. I'm not entirely sure the whole story about that. And she based a lot of the her characters around a lot of the specific film that I've never heard of until now called My Own Private Idaho.
Yes.
Okay. With Keanu Reeves and an actor who passed.
All right, I want to thank you guys for getting your opinions, and then I want to thank you all for coming. This has been a brief history, or not so brief history, because I talk a lot, history with Meredith. That's my Instagram, HMU.
Thank you.
Thank